Hi there. So I'm going to start a series of blogs on faith. So this is a series that I wrote, really trying to get to grips with, for me, why is faith so important? Why does it feel like such a vital part of who I am, what makes me up, a core part of that? And also, that's important. Me as a counselor, where do I position myself with faith? Am I Christian? Am I a Christian counselor? Am I not a Christian counselor? What's happening there? It's also important in just how I am in the world. And I've lived a lot of my life kind of between this between this feeling like faith is so important to me, yet in a society where faith is largely kind of despised, maybe mocked, or at least ignored as a bit weird. Um, so that's part of what I'm doing, and I think the real key thing that I've come to in writing these, um, is that I believe faith and fear are a key part of who we are, of who all of us are, and how that dance between faith and fear happens. The habits of those steps, the way we approach or avoid each other in that, will really be a key part of how we live our lives and what is possible and what's not, how we find belonging and connection, or how we isolate ourselves, how we find meaning or emptiness. So I think I want to place faith in that way where it is all of ours. And the discussion about it should be public, should be out loud, should be discussed with each other so that we can work out this key part of our existence. Okay, so this is the introduction. Um, and yeah, do put on your comments, your thoughts. Um, Let me know anything that it brings up for you. My faith is the part of me I treasure most. It is life giving, but is also the part of me that is most easily drowned out by all the other things that make up my day to day existence. But please don't misunderstand me. Some of you may now be thinking, he's religious. Oh no, here's another religious nut trying to tell me how I should think, live, or worse, tell me that I'm going to hell. I'm not. I won't. By faith, I don't mean beliefs, theology, or a moral code. Let me explain. You see, the other night I wanted to walk up a hill by my house to get a better view of the night sky. As I started, I realized just how dark it was, and I began to worry. Will it be muddy? Will I slip and trip? Am I going to be safe? I entered a way of being as I walked. Fear. This fear was shutting me off to the joy I could have had walking up that hill. I turned back and settled for a better lit but much less joyful route through the housing estate in which I live. What does that have to do with faith? Well, by faith I mean a way of walking through life that doesn't turn back when confronted by uncertainty, by darkness, by mud and risk. A way of being that is the opposite of fear. A way of life that opens us up rather than shuts us down. You could call it a mode of the heart that we can enter and leave, or even hover in the doorway of. So here I hope to describe a vital part of human experience that's not often acknowledged, but rejected in favour of more palatable, popular, and profitable ways of being. Faith, you see, is subversive. For others of you, I fear you may expect more from this than I can give. I don't aim here to be Christian or religious, although I may touch on the links for good and bad between religion and faith, and my own deeply cherished and deeply questioned Christianity. I don't aim to show how my Christianity meets the questions, conflicts, and suffering of existence and leads us into a more whole life, for fear that Meeting becomes answering, and leading becomes beating. I also don't aim here to say the right things. Faith for me is a matter of the soul. Writing about it is to enter the world of authenticity, presence, and congruence. Concepts of rightness and propriety I found force the soul into retreat, for they've known enough shame already. So in these words, I hope you find a call to reconnect with what I believe is the heartbeat of religion. It's not your theology. It's not being correct. It's not getting more numbers, converting non-believers, or being part of the in-group. So I have to say, I've questioned whether to write these blogs. What will people reading think? You might say this approaches the question of whether I'm a Christian or even a biblical counsellor, or a counsellor who happens to be Christian. My answer is no. I prefer to be the in-between space that our culture and religions dislike. You see, we like to label and categorize. We like our prejudices and stereotypes. We like to define ourselves by what we are not. This way of thinking is easy. It tells us what to expect and creates a mirage of control and understanding of existence. And I've lived a lot of my life trying to be safely, unthreateningly, happily part of two incompatible groups: the dominant secular culture and a Christian subculture. In doing so, I've cut off or suffocated parts of myself that weren't acceptable to one or either of those groups. Parts of myself that I now see were precious. Parts that were the essence of what makes me me. You see, the soul does not sit happily and safely within our categories. It's not made to conform. And that is its beauty. So rather than keep up the self-amputation, I've chosen to strive to be congruent. I try to live outwardly in a way that mirrors what goes on internally. I try to say and do what I believe most needs to be said and done, rather than what I think others expect me to. I know that when I encounter people who live like this, I find people that I can trust. They don't have an agenda. They don't need to manipulate me. Now, some may write me off as a heretic, others as a religious nutcase, others as someone who can't make up his mind. That's okay. I'm not doing this for them. That's the point. Rather, I'm walking this journey into the dark in faith that by seeking to be congruent, even if this means being challenging, difficult, and a little shocking, I can have an impact for good, and that you will find me trustworthy. But even more, that I'll find myself trustworthy. Thanks for listening, guys. Take care.